I'm one of these guys that kind of sits on the sidelines and waits for facts to come out and not really jump to conclusions one way or another. I don't know if he's done all this stuff. I don't know if he hasn't done any of this stuff. All I know is he's going to be on the field. I'm paid to be an analyst, so I'll break down 3rd and 7 for you. But the other stuff, I have no idea.
What about you when you were in college? How do you think you would have handled the kind of media?
Oh, man, I would have struggled. That's the one thing. Whether you're a fan of his or not, the one thing you have to really, really respect is his unique ability to just block out the noise, the chaos, because it's almost unprecedented in the years. I've been doing this 19 years. I don't know if a player's ever received this much negative attention and the things that they're saying about him. And I was at practice yesterday, and to hear some of the players, what they told me, what they were yelling in Raleigh, North Carolina at him, right there where he's like 5 feet away from him, and to endure that and just be unfazed and go out and execute. I don't know how he does it. I have a lot of respect for his ability to do that.
Is this attention the new normal for star college players, maybe?
I don't think it's the new normal. I mean, let's face it, we live in just a different world, with social media and everybody having a voice and everybody able to reach out to you. And these athletes are, they're put in front of people that potentially could put them in a bad place with their school and with their eligibility, and unfortunately, a lot of times these guys are making poor decisions. So, but I don't think the two go hand in hand. I don't think it's like, okay, you become a star and then you get in trouble, the way Johnny Manziel and Todd Gurley and now with Jameis. I think it's up to you to ultimately make good decisions and try to avoid those problems.
Do you think the players will respond positively to the way Jim Douglas kind of defended?
100%. I think the players, when you're in a locker room, when you're on a practice field, and it's you and the 100 guys that are out there working all year, not just this week, and there's a bond there, a brotherhood, and when people try to infiltrate that with negativity, all that does is bring you in tighter, and it becomes really an us against the world mentality. It becomes how dare they question our guy. And the other thing that I think, I don't know locally, but nationally, people don't really understand is how much he's liked. It's not like, hey, that's our guy. It's like, that's our boy. I mean, that's a guy we love that you're saying these things about. So yeah, to me, it's going to make them want to play for him as much as play for themselves and just trying to win. I think you saw that last week in the way they played against Syracuse.
In analyzing college football, have you ever seen a quarterback kind of like Jameis who can handle the pressure and block it all out and really just kind of perform at a high level no matter what?
I mean, there have been great quarterbacks in the NFL and great quarterbacks in college that have that ability, but I've never seen a guy be unfazed as much with as much going on as Jameis. Like I said, I can only think about myself, and if people were saying things about me that either were untrue or things that I didn't necessarily believe, and they just kept saying them, not just like on Twitter, but just everywhere. You would want to, kind of lash out at them or be emotional. He's been just not only performing well, he's been very, very steady in his behavior on the field. And again, whether you think he's done these things or he hasn't, that's the one thing we all know for sure is how he executes on the field and how he's able to block that out. I have a lot of respect for that.
On the other side of the ball, what are your thoughts on Everett Golson of Notre Dame and how he executes and what's he going to do?
Well, I think Everett, for Notre Dame to come here and compete, I think Everett's the key to the game for Notre Dame. I think it's very tough for me to imagine Notre Dame running the football consistently, so it's going to put a lot on his shoulders. I think his ability to run, quarterback design run, create when the pressure is there, he's got to be able to pull away and improvise. And then just his ability to make good decisions. He's turned the ball over 9 times in the last 3 games. A lot of fumbling, interceptions, and that was a strength of his early in the year. So I think he has to not only be the straw that mixes the drink, he has to do it in a way where he's taking care of the football and making good decisions.
The ability for Jameis to block that out, could that help him with his draft stock?
It could. I think no matter what happens with his all this stuff that's being talked about, while he's on the field and while he's competing, people are evaluating that as much as anything. And so for him to go out and continue to make good decisions, at the end of the day, NFL general managers and head coaches, they're looking at decision making, and they're looking at accuracy, and they're looking at intangibles. And so if he can go out despite all that pressure, despite all that noise, and execute, without a doubt, I think people take notice, and that can help him.
He kind of did that last Saturday in Syracuse.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he'll continue that?
I mean, if you go back to last November, when the other story really started, to me, he did a really good job of just breaking away from all of that and getting into the locker room and getting onto the field and going out and leading them to a national championship. Now, he had a lot of great leaders that are no longer here, Telvin Smith, LaMarcus Joyner, and those guys, but he still, he was dealing with a lot, and he was able to block it out all the way back, even as a freshman. So there's no reason for me to believe that he should crack or that he's going to break down. I talked to him this week, and he said the hardest part for him is when he gets a call from his mom or his grandmother, and they're crying because of what's going on. He said but he has an ability to just kind of block that out. But when it becomes his family, that's the only time he really starts to kind of get a little bit fired up.
Kirk, have you ever been to one team for game day 3 times in one season? It seems like you guys have been to Florida State quite a bit, with Florida State.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, have we been to one game day site 3 times for one team?
Not here.
Not one location, but we've
covered it. Yeah.
We've covered one team sometimes when they're on the road, maybe 3 times.
But it's not even often that you get 2 times in 1 year at the same location, like
Right.
you're doing here.
Yeah, we've had that a few times. Where, let's face it, we knew coming back into this year that Florida State was going to be preseason number 1, and any big game they might have here, there's a pretty good chance we'd be here.
You guys have to deal with some SEC hate on Twitter. I've seen you
Yeah.
respond saying, "Hey, we've been to Florida State twice. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. That just comes with the territory. Once the SEC network was backed by ESPN and the kind of produced by ESPN, people just assumed that there would be a natural tie-in. Hey, I'm a Big Ten guy. I call games on ABC on Saturday night. You truly know who I want to be good? Teams that are in the ACC and the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Everybody but the SEC, because the SEC can't go on ABC on Saturday night. Every other conference can. So we need Florida State and Miami and Ohio State and Michigan to be good. So when you're saying great things about the SEC, it's just what you feel, what you see. It's not like an agenda or some kind of. People just are out of their minds how they think. I watch teams. I say what I think. I don't even care what conference they're in. It's bizarre.
Was Notre Dame a surprise this year coming into the season as far as getting off to the hot start they did, every Golson's performance? Were you surprised at all?
100%. I thought they were a 7-5 team, and no offense to Brian Kelly and Notre Dame, but you had a quarterback that sat out all of last year. You had a defense that was breaking in a lot of new faces. You had a new defensive coordinator. You had an offensive line that was kind of reshuffled, breaking in a whole new group of receivers. You had the 5 players, 3 or 4 of which were really impact guys that were held out in August. There was no reason to think, perfect recipe for a top 5 type of finish. So I think that had as much to do with people questioning them. But hey, they're here. Everett's playing out of his mind. The defense is playing a lot better. And for now, we'll see if they can keep it going.
You've called quite a bit of Notre Dame football games in your time. You've seen them play a lot. What is it about Notre Dame games, Notre Dame's history, tradition that is appealing?
I think it's just that. It's the history and the tradition of it. I think people realize that Notre Dame has had so much success over the years, but for my generation and for people younger, we want to see it now. We respect the 4 horsemen, and we respect what Lou Holtz did, and Eric Parsegian, and Newt Rockne. It's great. It's great, and I'm a historian and a traditionalist. But the reality is, we've not seen them excel to probably the point that they need to. They got to the championship 2 years ago, but we need to see more consistency.